Marina is running the show today, and I am staying out of the way, so the lesson belongs to them from the very first beat.
Thank you, Erica. Failure is the test that matters. We will design around it from the start. Here is the number most ChatGPT users never track. When you write a one-line prompt and get back a draft, how long do you spend editing before you would actually send it? And if that editing time exceeds the time you would have spent writing from scratch, the tool just cost you more than it saved.
Erica here. The fix is a 3-part prompt structure that researchers and power users consistently arrive at independently: context, which is what the model needs to know about your situation; instruction, which is the specific output you want; and constraints, which are format, length, tone, and what to exclude. This episode walks each part with worked examples.
Marcus here. The broken pattern is something nearly everyone defaults to at first. You open a new chat, type something like "write me an email to my boss about the project delay," hit enter, and get back 3 paragraphs of polished-sounding generic text that misses your actual tone, omits the one fact that matters, and uses a structure your boss would never expect from you. Then you spend 15 minutes fixing what the model got wrong.
Liam here. This is the first episode of the series, and one thing worth flagging up front: every workflow we cover today applies to ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, because the underlying failure mode is structural, not model-specific. The 3-part framework is the shape that works across all of them. We will name where the tools diverge as we go.
Let me introduce the panel so you are not guessing.
Professor Erica here. Genuinely curious how the topic lands from this side of the table.
Marcus here. I frame every concept as a rep. Stack enough, and you have a practice.
Liam here. The clarifying question is underrated. I will keep using it.
The panel is seated, and the cameras are rolling, and we are heading into the lesson now. Context is the part of the prompt that tells the model what it cannot infer from your instruction alone. The model does not know your job title, your relationship with the person you are writing to, the history of the project, or the cultural tone your organization expects. Without that, it defaults to a competent generic professional voice, which is almost never the voice you actually need.
Consider 2 prompts for the same email. Prompt 1. Write an email to my boss about a project delay. Prompt 2. I am a senior analyst at a financial services firm. My boss is the VP of operations and prefers direct communication. Our Q2 reporting project is running 3 weeks behind because of a data vendor issue outside my team's control, and I need to notify her today and propose a revised timeline. The output difference between those 2 prompts is not small.
Good point, Erica. The context-rich version tells the model 5 things that are not in the instruction: the industry, the seniority relationship, the preferred communication style, the specific cause of the delay, and that the cause is external. Each of those changes a word choice decision in the output. The model is not smarter with better context, it just has fewer gaps to fill with generic text.
One thing worth flagging on context: Marcus, context is not permission to paste everything. The boundary question is, what is sensitive and what tier of the tool you are using? If the content is client names, financial data, proprietary strategy, or personally identifiable information, the context-rich version of that prompt should not be going into the free tier of any major model.
That is the privacy rule for this whole series. OpenAI's privacy policy as of 2026 allows inputs on the free tier to be used for model improvement unless you opt out in settings. ChatGPT Plus and Team tiers have the training opt-out turned on by default. If you are pasting work context with any sensitivity, confirm your tier and your settings before you type. We will repeat this note every time a workflow touches sensitive data.
The instruction part of a prompt is where most users go vague when they most need to be specific. An instruction is not a topic. Write about project risk is a topic. Give me 3 risks as 1-sentence bullets, each starting with, if we skip this step, ordered by severity is an instruction. The model can follow the second one without guessing what you want back.
the meeting prep brief is a great test case for instruction specificity. Compare these two prompts. W. Afters. Summarize our product roadmap meeting. Second, give me a 5-bullet prep brief for a 40-minute stakeholder meeting where I am presenting the Q3 product roadmap to 2 skeptical executives who have not seen the draft. Tell me the 3 questions they are most likely to ask and the 1 slide that will get challenged first. Those are 2 very different outputs, and the second one is the instruction.
There is a useful mental model here, Marcus. Think of the instruction as a specificity ladder, where every rung you add cuts your post-edit time roughly in half. The ladder goes from topic at the bottom to task, to format, to audience, to output structure. You do not have to reach the top rung every time. Even moving from topic to task, from explain to give me 3 reasons, makes the output substantially more usable.
The single most common failure pattern is treating the instruction as a topic statement. Explain. The difference between a fixed cost and variable cost contract is a topic. Tell me which cost structure my team should recommend for a 6-month software project with uncertain scope, and give me the argument in 3 sentences my client can follow without a finance background, is an instruction with enough specificity to produce output you could almost send as.
Constraints are the part of the prompt. Most users skip entirely, and it shows in the output. Without constraints, the model defaults to a moderate length, a neutral professional tone, a structure it invented, and an audience level it guessed. All 4 of those defaults are almost always wrong for your specific use case, and fixing them after the fact is the majority of your editing time.
Constraints fall into 5 categories. Length means word count or line count target. Format means headers, bullets, tables, or prose. Docken. Tone means formal, conversational, or direct.
That is a useful taxonomy, Erica. So the last 2 are exclusions and audience level.
Exactly. Exclusions tell the model what to leave out, and audience level names who is reading and what they already know. You do not need all 5 every time, but naming even 2 or 3 cuts output drift substantially.
The code review use case is a clean example of constraints working. Without them, review my Python function gets you a paragraph of general observations with no structure and no severity ranking. With constraints, review this Python 3.11 function for security vulnerabilities only, skip style comments, rank findings as critical, moderate, or low, and give each finding a 1-sentence fix recommendation. Those 4 constraints are the difference between a note and an actionable checklist.
The exclusion constraint deserves its own mention because it is the most underused and the highest return one. Do not include background I already know. Do not summarize what I just wrote back to me. Do not add a generic closing paragraph. Those 3 sentences in a prompt can remove 30 to 50% of the output that would otherwise go straight to the delete key. Think of it as telling the model where not to spend its output budget.
The show me one example pattern is the fastest single addition to a prompt structure that catches the biggest category of misalignment before it cascades. The pattern is simple. Before you write all 10 items, show me one example first and wait for my feedback. 1 sentence added to the end of your prompt. Almost nobody does it by default, which is the only reason it keeps saving so much editing time.
Good observation, Marcus. The way to invoke it is literally 1 sentence at the end of the prompt. Before you write all of them, give me 1 example item and pause for feedback. If the 1 example is right, say continue. If it is wrong, correct the format or tone in 1 reply.
And that single correction guides every item that follows. The math is striking once you see it.
Exactly, Elena. The cost is 20 seconds. The return is 10 to 20 minutes of editing you do not do. Stick around because the next scene walks why this math holds even on small tasks.
The vacation itinerary case makes this concrete. Imagine you ask for a 7-day Japan itinerary with a mix of temples and urban neighborhoods, and the model produces a day 1 plan that is wall-to-wall tourist sites with no breathing room, in a format that looks like a corporate briefing. Every remaining day is wrong in exactly the same way. One example first would have caught the format and the pacing before the model spent its output budget on 6 more wrong days. That is the core of the pattern.
The underlying reason this pattern works is that misalignment compounds. When the model misunderstands your format preference in item 1, items 2 through 10 have the same error baked in. Editing the full output means touching every item. Catching it in the one example check means one correction sentence that guides every subsequent item.
The last structural piece of the 3-part framework is where it connects to custom GPTs, the difference between a system instruction and a message instruction. A system instruction is set once, in the GPT Builder's configuration panel, and applies to every conversation in that GPT. A message instruction is what you type in the chat box for one specific request. Both use the same 3-part structure, but they live at different levels.
In a custom GPT, the system prompt is where you set the persistent version of context, instruction defaults, and constraints. You might write something like, "You are a code review assistant for a Python 3.11 codebase. Always rank findings by severity. Never explain standard library functions. The user already knows. Output as a numbered list." Every conversation in that GPT inherits those rules automatically.
The practical split is this. System instructions are for anything that applies every single time you use that GPT, and message instructions are for the one-off overrides that apply only to this particular request. If you always want formal tone, put it in the system prompt. If today's output needs to be casual because you are writing a team Slack message, override it in the message instruction. The model generally respects that hierarchy, though the behavior can vary across model versions.
The failure mode worth flagging is a contradiction between the two. If your system prompt says always use bullet points and your message says give me a paragraph summary, the model has to choose, and it will either hedge by producing bullets formatted to look like a paragraph, or it will ignore one of the instructions with no explanation. When outputs feel inconsistent or partial, a system versus message contradiction is the first thing to check in your GPT configuration.
If you forget everything else from this episode, remember context tells the model what it cannot infer, instruction tells it exactly what you want, and constraints tell it where to stop. Those 3 parts, written out even briefly, will cut your post-edit time by more than any clever phrasing ever will. Drop in the comments which part of the structure you most often skip and what it costs you.
Okay, it is quiz time. Let's find out what stuck. Think through each question carefully before you answer.
The single best thing you can do for this channel is hit like and subscribe. It costs nothing. It helps everything.
A professional writes the following prompt: write a summary of our Q3 sales results. Which part of the 3-part prompt structure is she missing that would most reduce her post-editing time? The correct answer is C. Constraints. She has not named the desired length, format, audience, or what to exclude, so the model defaults to a generic structure that rarely matches the actual need.
You are prompting ChatGPT to generate 15 social media captions for a product launch. What is the main benefit of adding the phrase, "Before you write all 15, give me one example and wait for my feedback" to the end of your prompt? The correct answer is B. It surfaces a format or tone mismatch after one item rather than after all 15, so a single correction guides the remaining output instead of requiring edits to every caption.
A developer builds a custom GPT with a system instruction that says always respond in formal English. In the message, a user types, "Please give me a casual, Slack-style message I can send to my team." What should the developer expect the model to do? The correct answer is B. The model will likely attempt to satisfy both instructions and may produce a hedged output that is neither fully formal nor fully casual, because system and message instructions are in direct contradiction.
The core takeaway, context, instruction, and constraints are not optional polish on top of a prompt. They are the structural reason the output is usable on the first pass instead of the third.
6 months from now, you will look back at your pre-structure prompts and wonder how you were patient enough to edit all of that output by hand.
Next episode, the one memory feature in ChatGPT that can leak your private preferences into completely unrelated conversations if you leave the default settings on.
If the series is useful, subscribe so the next episode comes to you automatically. The context persistence episode is where the practical privacy decisions live, and most users do not check those settings until something goes wrong.
Robust beats clever, every Monday morning.
Elena, you made the material do what it is supposed to do. Stick. 9 out of 10. Professor Erica, signing off.